Today we'll discuss about an income from other sources. And what is an income from other source? Any income which does not fall under any four heads. So we know the four heads. One is an income from salary, income from house property, and profits and gains from business and profession, and capital gain. If any income is not falling under these four heads, that will fall under income from other sources. For example, we have learned in last classes income from salary. Mr. Suresh is working in X college, and the relation between an employment and employee, there is an agreement. According to their employment, and Mr. Suresh is receiving a salary for monthly purpose that we know earlier, income from salary. So when Suresh is working in X college, is receiving the remuneration we are calling as an income from salary. Suppose Mr. Suresh simultaneously is working, for example, 9 to 4 is working in X college, and after 4, from 6 to 8, suppose is working some Z college as a part-time lecturer. So Mr. Suresh, what he's receiving from the Z college, we are calling as an income from other sources. And similarly, coming to income from house property, suppose X is let out his house to Mr. Y with a rent of 9,000. And again, Mr. Y has sublet to Z. Suppose there is three portions, three rooms, two rooms is utilizing by him, and one room is given to Mr. Z. So this we are calling as a sublet. If they receive any income from this sublet, we are calling as an income from other sources. And next, when they are, suppose a profession, the doctor who is having the specialized and qualified persons, by having that qualification, they are going to give the prescriptions, and then they are giving such services, and we are going to pay some remuneration for them. As such, we are calling as the profession. So for example, the doctor, suppose is a government employee, and what is the income is receiving from the government, we are calling as an income from salary. Suppose the same doctor is having a clinic, what is getting some income is receiving from his clinic, we are calling as an income from profession. Sometimes these doctors are called to some ceremonies, some like birthday or some other, etc. And they are going to give the free prescriptions, which is provided by the concerned persons. And those persons are going to pay some honorarium to these doctors. And such incomes we are calling here an income from other sources. Similarly, then Mr. Suresh is working in X college, as I said just now. Suppose he is going to the spot valuation in university and is receiving for the remuneration by evaluating your answer scripts. So such spot valuation amount, if you receive anything from that university, if you receive any amount, or sometimes he's going to go and observer to conduct some examinations to the other colleges. And if such any duties are deputed by this one university or some other, etc. universities, and if they receive some any income, we are calling here an income from other sources. So here the income from other source, just now I said, the income which is not falling under the four heads, like income from salary, income from house property, profits and gains from business or profession, and next capital gain. Such income we are calling as income from other sources, and such income will fall under the residuary head. Such we are calling here an income from other sources. As per our syllabus, we have divided our income from other sources into the two problems, which you know, the part 1 and part 2. So here first we have to know what is an income from other source, which is called as an income from other sources. Look at here once. So here the income they are getting from the lotteries, gambling, betting and horse races, crossword puzzles, or any other casual incomes by attending some TV programs or game shows and TV shows like or Count Banega Crorepati. So like some TV shows, they are participating and they are going to win some amount from the competitions. And such incomes we're calling as casual income. Unexpectedly, they are receiving some income. Such incomes we're calling here the casual incomes. So here, interest in other than securities, by investing some securities, some bonds, they are receiving some interest. So such we're calling as securities. And commission, by their profession, they're receiving some commission like partnership, The partners are going to receive some commission as salary in the partnership accounts. You are going to write a salary, but here we're calling it income from other sources. Like family pension, like government employees are going to receive the family pensions and royalties, which they have been invented by the persons and scientists. They are receiving the royalty incomes. Undirected fees, subletting a house, just now we discussed, and dividend by investing in the shares, you are receiving the dividend. And tuition income, just now I said Mr. Suresh is working and is giving some tuitions to the students and is receiving some fees, such we are calling your tuition income. And annuity received lending by the trademarks and copyrights. So here, by making some new invent, they are getting the copyrights and as well as the trademarks, which they will show. And by that they are going to receive some incomes, and gifts received by the cash or coins, a forfeit to transfer capital amount, and remuneration received by the MP and MLAs. MPs means member of parliament, and MLAs member of legislative assemblies. So these people, what are the incomes they are receiving? Such incomes we are calling as an income from other sources. Once again, listen here. Income from lotteries, gambling houses, betting sources, crossword puzzles, and any other casual incomes like participating in TV shows, game shows, etc. And interest on other than securities, interest on securities, family pension, commission, royalties, director fees, subletting house, dividends, tuition fees, and any received lending by the trademark and copyrights. So here, gifts and received. Sometimes they are going to give their machineries or plants and building to someone for the rent purpose, and they're receiving some income and some expenses we are going to deduct in the part 2 we discussed earlier. So here, such incomes we're calling as income from other sources. So here, the interest on the following securities will be included under these heads. Securities issued by the central government, securities issued by the state government, securities issued by the local authorities, securities issued by the companies, securities issued by the public corporations. And such all incomes we are calling as incomes under the income from securities we are going to record. So here then we are going to discuss the types of securities. We know earlier the securities are going to divide it into three types. One is securities exempted from tax, less tax securities, and tax-free securities. Again, less tax securities are divided into two types. One is a government, another one is a commercial. Again, the commercial is divided into listed and unlisted. Similarly, the tax-free is divided into government and commercial. Again, the commercial is divided into listed and unlisted securities. So like this. So here we know whenever the government comes, we are going to calculate the single step. Such we are calling here the net interest, or we are going to calculate the face value into rate by 100. The single step, only one step will calculate either it is belongs to the government security. Either it may be a tax-free security or less tax government. Tax-free government, less tax government always will be calculated in one step. That is a face value into rate by 100. And when coming to the tax-free, commercial, listed and unlisted, we are going to make two steps. Why? Because they are going to make the calculation of 10% tax. We know 100 divided by 100 minus tax. So 100 divided by 100 minus 10, you're getting 100 by 90. Once again, listen here. The tax-free, 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 commercial, listed and unlisted, you need to make the two steps. The step one, you are going to make the face value into rate by 100. The second step, you are going to get the net interest into 100 by 90. And coming to the less tax government, one step. Less tax, commercial, listed and unlisted, always one step. These are the points remember while doing the sums. Once again, listen here. Always the government, one step, either it may be less tax or tax-free government. And coming to the tax-free, commercial, listed and unlisted, two steps. One is a step one, face value into rate by 100, and second value is the net interest into 100 by 90. And coming to the tax-free government, one step, face value into rate by 100. And tax-free, commercial, listed and unlisted, one step. Okay, you also make while doing the sums. And coming here, the securities exempted from tax. Whenever these securities is going to come, you have to write in a working note. These are exempted from tax. And look at here once. This is the 12 years national plan. What is the meaning of first? We have to know what is securities exempted from tax. Whenever these securities comes, we cannot calculate the interest as we cannot include it in the total income, and there is no tax on these interest. So such securities are going to be exempted from the tax. The tax due on these securities is fully exempted from the tax. Such interest received by the assessee will not be included in the total income. These securities are issued by the government, and interest on the following securities is totally exempted from the tax. What are they? Look at your ones. One is the 12 years National Plan Saving Certificates, Treasury Saving Deposit Certificates, Post Office certificates, National Plan certificates, Post Office National Saving certificates, and Post Office cumulative term deposits, and the scheme fixed deposit and the government saving certificates, scheme fixed deposit of post office, and NRI bonds of 1988, and NRI bonds of State Government of India, and 9.25 tax-free percent of Rural Electrification Corporation bonds, and 10.5% HUDCO, Housing Urban Development Corporation. And next, 9.2% the Electrical Corporation Limited, 10.2% redeemable and non-convertible tax-free bonds, and 8% tax-free bonds of India Infrastructure Finance Company Limited, Post Office Saving Certificates, and interest on bonds issued by the local authority, state pooled finance entity notified central government, and 8% tax-free bonds of India Infrastructure Finance Company Limited, secured redeemable convertible railway bonds issued by the Indian Railway Finance Corporation. If such any bonds or is going to come, securities is going to come, we are going to write the securities are exempted from the tax. Once again, listen here, this is a very important point. So here 12 years National Plan Saving Certificates, Treasury Saving Deposit Certificates, Post Office Cash Certificates, NRI bonds issued by the 1998 State Bank of India, 10.5% issued by the HUDCO bonds, Housing Corporation Developments, and 9.25% tax-free bonds issued by the Rural Electrification Corporation Limited, 10.25% redeemable non-convertible and tax-free bonds issued by the National Hydraulic Power Corporation Limited, 8% tax-free bonds of India Infrastructure Finance Company Limited, and Post Office National Savings Certificates and National Plan certificates, and tax-free 8% tax-free bonds India Infrastructure Finance Company Limited, and 22% secured redeemable non-convertible railway bonds issued by the Indian Railway Finance Corporation. And such bonds you are going to receive, we are calling as securities exempted from the tax. Then we have to discuss the tax-free securities. Just now I said the tax payable in both holder by the securities paid by the securities issuing authority. One is the securities issued by the government companies. Gross interest will be included in the total income. So here, whenever you are receiving this tax-free securities, government is going to calculate it one step. And if it is commercial, listed and unlisted, always we are going to calculate two steps. One is a face value into rate by 100. Another one is net interest into 100 by 90. Why? Because the 10% is tax. That's why 100 divided by 100 minus tax, you're getting 100 by 100 minus 10. That you're getting 100 by 90. So here tax-free government interest received is gross interest, tax-free commercial net interest 100 by 90, government interest received by gross interest. So less tax commercial listed and unlisted 100 by 90 you have to make. And coming to the less tax securities. So here of the total interest due to the securities holder, the tax is deducted by issuing authority. That is the payer of the interest received by the assessee is net interest, and the same is to be grossed up and is to be included in the total income. The securities can be issued by both the government and commercial authorities. Once again, listen this. The total interest due to the security holder, the tax is deducted by issuing authority. That is the payer of the interest received by the assessee is net interest, and the same is to be grossed up and is also to be included in the total income. So these securities can be issued by both the government and the commercial authorities. Whether it belongs to less tax, either government, commercial, listed and unlisted, always you're going to make one step that you're calculating the gross interest is equal to face value into rate by 100. Face value into rate by 100. Once again, listen here. If you're receiving the securities exempted from tax, no calculation. Directly we are writing under the working note. These are the securities exempted from tax. Whether you are receiving the tax-free government, one step, face value into rate by 100. Tax-free, commercial, listed and unlisted, two steps. Once again, remember, tax-free, commercial, listed and unlisted, two steps. One is the face value into rate by 100 and NI into 100 by 90. You have to calculate the two steps. And coming to the less tax securities, if it is a government, less tax government, one step, less tax commercial, listed and unlisted, you are going to make one step. That is a face value into rate by 100, remember. And now look as here. After calculating this, we are going to give here in the part 1 the deduction from the expenses from the dividend income. By investing the shares, you are going to get a dividend income, and from that you can claim the 57.1, 57.3 sections. The deductions can be claimed. One we are calling as a collection charges. Any reasonable sum paid by the way of commission or remuneration to a banker or any other person for the purpose of realizing the dividends. So here, these collection charges in the questions is going to give sometimes collected charges as 0.5%, 1%, or 1.5% on the gross total income, gross income from interest on securities. That we'll see in the format right now. And by adding all the securities, you're getting the gross income from interest. On the directly, we are going to give percentage. If we give the percentage, that percentage we have to calculate. Otherwise, sometimes he's going to give in the question itself 1100, 1200, 1300, like that according to the question. Whatever he gave, that we are going to subtract. Under the inner column, we are going to write these collection charges. And next, interest on loan. So these interest on loan, money borrowed to purchasing for shares, is going to claim some deduction. Whenever he says some shares are purchased, for example, 50,000 shares, 8% is given. And that percentage we are going to calculate according to that, whether it is tax free or less tax. We will write in the format for 6 months, and an average, we are going to calculate the interest for 6 months. But while giving the deduction, we have to calculate how many months it took. He is going to give the consent dates, and we have to calculate that months. According to that given percentage, the interest rate he will give in the question, and that amount interest rate into that months, particularly we have to calculate how many months during is there, and that months we have to calculate the interest on loan. So here, the interest on money borrowed for purchasing the shares can be claimed as a deduction. The interest can be claimed even no if income is earned by a way of dividend in such shares, it shall be held by the Supreme Court. The expenditure has been laid out for the purpose of earning dividend of income. Whether income is actually earned is not an deduction, an account of interest can be claimed. So that's why, once again, listen here. While we are calculating the interest, we have to calculate annual average for 6 months. We are going to show as a income. But while calculating the deduction, how many months he gave, that months only we have to calculate. Now see the format once. And if any other expenditure he has given a capital nature of expenditure only exclusive for the purpose making earning, such income can be claimed as a deduction. And this we'll discuss in the next part 2. But here we know, suppose if they are given some remuneration for dividend and commission of any other person's interest borrowed purchasing the shares and securities, expenditure being expenditure, capital nature, and crossing of interest is net interest into 100 by 90. So here the deduction expenses from the part 2, while we are calculating, like some incomes they are going to give, they will give some income by giving the plant, or letting the plant he received, or letting the ground he received some income, and concerned expense will be given for us, and that expenses we are going to deduct, like rebates in municipal taxes, etc. Some expenditure will be given for the concerned incomes. Such incomes we are going to that expenditure will be deducted from the concerned income, and the remaining net income will be shown in the outer column while calculating the part 2 problems, like repairs of building, insurance of premium building, repairs of machinery, plant and machinery, insurance of machinery, plant machinery depreciation, based upon the block of assets, and same manner we are going to calculate, and that is going to be deducted. And family pension, we know according to the calculation, the 1/3 percentage, we know that calculation we will make. And next, coming to the first part, the format, the computation of Mr. X so and so, and income from interest on securities under the head income from other sources for the assessment year 2019 to 20. We are going to write this. Listen carefully while doing the sums, it will help you. So here, interest on tax-free government securities. Interest on tax-free government securities, one step. Face value into rate by 100, that will calculate, and we'll write the outer column. And interest on tax-free commercial securities listed, 2 steps. Face value into rate by 100, and net interest into 100 by 90, you have to calculate, that you have to write here. And interest on tax-free commercial securities unlisted, 2 steps. Face value into rate by 100, and next net interest into 100 by 90, you have to calculate, that you have to write here. And next, interest on less tax government securities, 1 step. Face value into rate by 100, you have to calculate, that you have to write here. And interest on less tax commercial securities listed and unlisted. List tax, commercial, listed and unlisted. You are going to calculate one step. That is the face value into rate by 100. You calculate your right here. By adding all those, you are getting your the gross income from interest on securities. You are getting your gross income from interest on securities. And then just now I said, according to the question, sometimes it will give the collection charges. We are going to give the deduction on the section 57. So that is the collection charges. Sometimes he will say 1% on the gross income from interest on securities, or 1.5% or 0.5%, or sometimes he may give such a particular lump sum amount. That amount we are going to write here. And next, interest paid on loan taken to the purchase securities. So here, that interest we are going to calculate. Just now I said, while we are writing in the format, on an average 6 months we have to calculate, while giving the deduction, the concerned months, particularly we have to calculate how many months he has taken the interest, that you have to calculate, and that you have to write here. By adding all these two, we have to write here from this gross income from interest on securities, you have to deduct this deduction, then you are getting the income from interest on securities. Once again, this is in the format. And next session we are going to discuss the problems. So here, competition of Mr. X or Y, etc. And income from interest on securities under the head income from other sources for the assessment year 2019 to 20. So here, interest on tax-free government securities, face value into rate by 100, we will calculate and we'll write here. And interest on tax-free commercial securities listed. Two steps. One is a face value into rate by 100, and net interest into 100 by 90 we have to calculate, we have to write here. And interest on tax-free commercial securities unlisted. Again the two steps, that is we have to calculate face value into rate by 100, and net interest into 100 by 90 we have to calculate, we are going to write here. And next, interest on less tax government securities, one step, face value into rate by 100 you have to write here. Less tax commercial listed, one step, face value into rate by 100 you have to write here. Interest on less tax commercial securities unlisted, one step, face value into rate by 100 you have to calculate, you have to write here. By adding all these, you're getting here the gross income from interest on securities. And then you're giving a deduction under section 57. So that is the collection charges. So here, according to the problem, if you give the lump sum amount we are going to write, or sometimes you're going to say some problems, the collection charges 1% or 1.5% on this gross total income. On this amount, you need to calculate and you want to write here. And next, interest paid on loan taken to purchase the securities is going to give, if he gives in a question, and particular what is the percentage given, percentage is given, what is the interest rate is given, into particularly what is the date, the duration he has given, that months we have to calculate, and that will be multiplied, then we are getting interest paid for loan taken. These two will be added, that we are going to write. From the gross income from interest, you have to deduct these deductions, then you are getting income from interest on securities. And coming to the next part 2. So here, winning from lotteries, crossword puzzles, races, including the horse races, card games, gambling, betting, etc. Winning from lotteries, by purchasing a lottery ticket, you are receiving some amount. Crossword puzzles, by filling the puzzles, you are getting some amount. Horse races, participating, you are getting some casual incomes. TV shows and game shows like Kaun Banega Karodpati or Milo Ever Koteshwar. So like some TV shows you are going to participate. If you receive some income, such incomes we are calling here, what we are calling here in casual incomes. If any income such you receive, these are the incomes, we know the calculation, the tax rate as 30%. So earlier what we done, the previously what we learned just now, 100 by 100 minus tax rate. That is going to be taxed by 10%. 100 divided by 100 minus 10, we got 100 by 90. And these casual incomes are going to be taxed at the rate of 30%. So 100 divided by 100 minus 30, you are getting 100 by 70. 100 by 70. So such, if incomes any given, these are mostly we are going to get in the part 2 problems. that we are going to make it. And next, winning from lotteries, winning from casino puzzles, and race horses, winning from card games, winning from gambling and betting. So here, the deductions we are going to make, and these we have to calculate. And according to that, we will make calculations. And while doing the sums in the next session, the part 1 and as well as the part 2 problems. Once again, I will discuss few minutes. So income from other sources. Any income which does not fall under 4 heads, like income from salary, income from house property, profits and gains from business or profession, and capital gain. Such income is going to fall under these income from other sources. These income from other sources. For example, Mr. Suresh is receiving a salary from X college. So here the employee is going to receive the remuneration from the employer. There is an agreement, there is an employment contract between the employer and the employee. The employer will pay the amount to the employee. In such X college, if the Suresh is receiving, such income will fall under income from salary. But the same Suresh is going to work under the Y college as a part-time lecturer, or the same Suresh is going for the spot valuation, or the same Suresh is giving some tuitions. If such income, if he is receiving any other incomes, we are calling here income from other sources. X college is a salary, the others what is receiving from the spot valuation or tuitions or etc. Such income is going to fall under income from other sources. Similarly, the X is let out his house property to Mr. Y, and such income we are calling as income from house property. By giving the sublet, what is the income is receiving, such income we are calling here income from other sources. Similarly, if any person doing an agriculture outside India, any agriculture income